middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. We have no Great War, no Great Depression. Our Great War is a spiritual war.
Hello, everyone. and Welcome to our fourth episode of Guns and Rosaries here, Adrian.
Third or fourth?
Fourth, yeah. And man, besides that first one, we've had three. Well, yeah, this is gonna be our third rough episode in a row.
Yeah.
Not great. Not fun topics here.
No, a lot has happened since the last time we had a show. The arena stuff come out that day of the last show.
Either that day or the day before, because that's why we did situational awareness.
Yes. It was like over the weekend. Yeah. So welcome, y'all. We've got George here from Chivalry Guild on X. I wanted to bring him on, and it's unfortunately apropos based on what's happened over the last few days, over the last week. But before we get into it, I'm going to have my little monologue real quick. I want to talk about some stuff that has happened since the Charlie Kirk stuff. When the Charlie Kirk thing happened, I was on my way to work, and when I saw exactly what happened, when we all got that angle that showed close up what happened, I knew, because my experience as a paramedic, I knew it. I was like, there's no way he's living. And so when I heard that they were like, oh, he's making it to the hospital, I was like, no, they're just saying that so they can declare him at the hospital. There's no way he survived that. And when I realized that, a lot of sorrow hit me. Mostly for his family, but in the back of my mind, it was also, we just crossed a precipice we can't come back from. We're entering into a time that it is the America that I grew up in, that I was raised in, is no longer exists. We're in a time where our kids are going to have a much harder future than I had at their same age. Even though I thought, Charlie Kirk was very lame on some topics, I don't think his opinion was as developed as it needed to be. He was still someone who had some very good logic behind what he was doing, and you could see there was some development in him from where he was in 2016 to where he is as of last week. And as I realized, where we were going, and where we've seen these things happen before in third world countries. I saw it firsthand in Afghanistan, the amount of political assassinations that happened when I was there. Usually not by gunfire. It was usually by some type of explosive, but this is still a hard one to watch. And I think where a lot of America has woken up since then is to realize that we have a lot of people out there that just we cannot live with. Sam Hyde had a video come out today called "This Is You," and I don't know, if any of y'all watch Sam Hyde, but I don't watch him very regularly, but occasionally I'll watch him. And the first 5 minutes of his video today, if you don't watch anything else, watch about the first 5 or 10 minutes. It is very prescient of where we're at. The title of the video is "This Is You," and basically what he's trying to get across is, Charlie Kirk and Arena, that those are us. And there is a whole segment of people out there that do not care what you have to say. All they care is that if you don't agree with them, you have to be gone. And last week we saw what kind of ways they're willing to do that. A lot of us are going to have to start transitioning our thought process to being more accepting of things are going to get worse. This is the beginning of the violence that we're all going to see. As long as we have a population out there that has a 45 to 60% suicide rate, and they feel as if they cannot live in a society with us either, they're going to just get more and more violent. So we need to be aware that this is not the end of it. This isn't going to stop next week. It is just going to get worse from here. Another thing we have to be aware of is the people we're seeing that are coming out against what happened. We have to be aware of the people who are going to try and stick to the swinging of the pendulum like a barnacle, right? They don't want to be caught up with where their politics logically took them. So they're trying to catch the swing of the pendulum back so it doesn't come against them. And you're going to see them grift, and you're going to see them change their position on things and doing a hard right on a lot of topics because they have always gone along to get along. And so you're going to see people come to the right, and I use that word loosely, who have never been there, have never been an ally, who have never been a friend, who have never had any of the same values and principles as we have had. And they're going to act like they've always had it. Okay. So we have to, as we did last time, have your head on a swivel, see what's going on. And this is a time, like we've been talking about the last few shows, you have to be better tomorrow than you are today. You need to be finding little ways to make yourself better and your family better every day, whether that's getting in better physical shape, that's reading more and stretching your mental muscles, that's getting on your knees more and praying more, providing, more, logistics for your family in case hard times come. Like this morning, I woke up and my power was out for 7 hours for no reason because a guy hit a power pole across the street from me, right? That made things a little difficult today, starting on a Monday morning, right? But I was prepared for that because, how we live. We're a little bit more resilient, but we have to make ourselves a little bit better every day. You also have to make yourself a little bit more dangerous. You have to be prepared to do violence to protect yourself and your family and the innocent. We are seeing now that it is no longer acceptable to just always walk away. Sometimes you have to stand your ground, and sometimes that means accepting the consequences that comes with that. And I'm going to finish this last point or two. Stop fed posting. Okay. Be aware of what you're putting on social media. I know emotions ran high, and a lot of people are very scared and concerned about where we're going. Stop giving people a reason to look harder at you. Okay. With the way that AI is progressing, it will not be long. In fact, we saw it. There's last week, there was a Intel official that came out after it was between Arena and Charlie Kirk about AI scrubbing the internet constantly, scraping it, trying to find far left and far right activity, right? And trying to predict violence that's going to happen. And the last point is I want to bring up before we get into our guest here is get offline. Stop spending so much time on the internet and social media. Go talk to people in meet space, right? And start to develop better relationships with people that you can depend on. Start developing, in the Marines, we had fire teams, which were 4 guys, right? 4 guys were a fire team. You could depend on each other. Every squad was dependent of 3 fire teams and a squad leader. Start to develop your fire team. 3 to 4 guys that you can depend on that can be there in case you need them, right? As we used to call them, our 3 a.m. friends, like a guy who I can call at 3 o'clock in the morning, and no matter what, he's going to answer that phone. And he's going to help me and not ask questions, right? Start to find those guys, develop those friendships. And that means you have to give up social equity too. You have to give into these people as much as you take, right? because the way we're going and the route we're going there, we just got off of the local country road and we're now on the highway. Things are going a whole lot faster. And things when you're on the highway, those wrecks can be a whole lot more violent. So just realize where we're at and start to take to heart a lot of things that we talk about here, and things that especially we're going to talk about with George, because having him on now is, man, what better guest could we have on at this time? So I want to introduce George. George is from the Chivalry Guild on X. He puts out phenomenal content. I've been talking to George for a little bit. We've had some conversations for a while. And I think he has a lot to give and a lot of knowledge to get us out of this rut of thinking that we have to be pacifists, and thinking that Christianity is a old lady's religion. Okay. All right. And with that, George, welcome. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm good, Adrian. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. You were actually the first guest I thought about. I was like, when Rob and I were game planning this show, I was like, well, George has got to be first. He's got to be our first guy.
You did say that.
I'm honored.
Absolutely. Good. How are things going for you? You're up north, aren't you?
Yeah, Great Lakes area.
Yeah.
Things are good. Things are good. Been working on a lot of the stuff that you were just talking about a minute ago, as far as really building up loyalties, local loyalties, as best I can. So that's going well.
Good. So I first of all, I told Rob he needs to read your book.
You did.
But so I know when you came out with the book, I got it as soon as I could and I read it, and it took me about a day to read it because I just binged on it for a little bit. And I thought your book was not that it wasn't too scholarly that even a dumb Marine like myself could understand it, but it provided a lot of background and a lot of your thoughts on where we went astray and where we came from. So if you could, would you mind just kind of go over like the basis of your book and where that background came from that you wanted to really put that out?
Let's see where to start. I was raised like very lax Catholic. I was very soft also growing up. When I look back on my formative years, I'm kind of aghast at how poorly formed I was, both like intellectually and spiritually. And, there were really big consequences of that. When you like fail to, let me state this. The biggest problem, as far as I see it, Russell Kirk's got this line: humankind can endure anything except boredom. And I think that my years, I'm one of the older millennials. So my formative years were just so steeped in this post-Cold War boredom of the 90s and the aughts. And I was just very spiritually impoverished as a result. And I was Catholic out of habit and out of duty, but I certainly didn't love the sissified teachings. And I don't know what happened. Somehow I found this essay by CS Lewis, The Necessity of Chivalry. I found Joseph Pieper's writing on the cardinal virtues, and it was just absolutely wild to be exposed to a much more invigorating part of our tradition than I had ever known before. And I, not to sound too conspiratorial, but I started to think, like, was this purposefully withheld from me? Why in the world was I not told this stuff? Why was I given this maximally sissified version of the faith at the same time that I was just like bored to death, put into this zombie-like trance way of living? So as I was discovering this stuff, it just became wild. And I guess my project is an attempt to share things that I wish I had been told when I was younger, things that would have made a very significant difference for me. The book, long story short, it's an introduction to chivalry, an argument that this is an ideal whose time has come again. It's built around it's structured around the 6 chivalric virtues of prowess, courtesy, honor, generosity, loyalty, and faith. And I explore what those looked like for the men of the past and what it might look like for us today. So long story short, that's the vision for the book.
So when I read C.S. Lewis's On Chivalry, or Necessity of Chivalry, I'm sorry. And so I run a men's group at our parish, and that was one of the first articles that we kind of discussed, because I always send out an article for us to kind of get the conversation going. And then if the conversation starts to get a little stagnant, we can always come back to the article. But the second paragraph really grabs the attention. I'm gonna read it real quick for those of you that haven't read it. The important thing about this ideal is, of course, the double demand it makes on human nature. The knight is a man of blood and iron, a man familiar with the sight of smashed faces and the ragged stumps of lopped off limbs. He is also a demure, also a maiden-like guest in the hall, a gentle, modest, unobtrusive man. He is not a compromise or happy mean between ferocity and meekness. He is fierce to the nth and meek to the nth. When Lancelot first heard himself pronounced the best knight in the world, he wept as he had been a child that had been beaten. So that gets me into the issue with meekness, right? Because as you were saying, like the sissified faith we were all raised in, and I think there's very few people, especially in the chat, who wasn't given that facade of the faith, that hasn't heard what the current definition of meekness is, right? Meekness is, well, you turn the other cheek, right? You're pacifist. You don't do anything, right? You let people just walk all over you, because that's what Christians are. Christians are doormats, right? You're not supposed to do anything, because that's what Jesus would do, right? And that's what we're told growing up by Sister Suit Pants, right? So where did meekness, or let me ask it more like this. What is actually meekness? Well, what is meant when meekness is used in the sacred scriptures and by C.S. Lewis?
I think Aquinas is the place to go here. He says very clearly that meekness is that virtue which, I believe his words are, restrains the onslaught of anger, and so allows a man to be angry but still exercise good judgment. Obviously, and I just wrote an essay in praise of anger. Anger is not a bad thing. We are so horribly confused, especially on what does Pieper call these, like the fundamental, like, life energies, desires, angers. Like, these things are not bad things. They simply need to be brought under the rule of good judgment. So that is the purpose of meekness, to allow a man to not be overcome with rage, such that he does stupid things in his rage. This is like a really strategic and even martial virtue, because if you don't have meekness, you are going to be so easily set off by slick operators who know how to manipulate you. And when you get set off and you can't control yourself, you lash out to all provocations. That just means that you expend your strength and your energy on trifles rather than the things that you need to direct them towards.
The quote I always come back to, and I can't remember who said it. In fact, I think it's been attributed to quite a few people, is if you are unwilling to do violence to protect those you love, you are not a pacifist, you are harmless. Right. And so let me ask you, based on the events that's happened in the past week, like, how did the Charlie Kirk thing affect you, and where do you see yourself having to practice meekness, right, and to restrain that anger in a constructive manner?
Yeah, the Kirk thing, I had a similar initial view of him to the one you expressed a couple minutes ago. When he just came out onto the scene, what would that have been, 9 years ago or so? He seemed like kind of an unserious normie con goofball. And I guess I never really reassessed him in light of the fact that, to your point, he really was moving in the right direction. And I also have to check myself here too, because I, like a lot of us on the dissident right, I've been too cynical about the project of actually talking to people and still trying to convince people. Now, obviously, like the establishment right has made a ridiculous idol of the marketplace of ideas. You don't reason with people who are as far gone as so many are. But nevertheless, like, Charlie Kirk was doing real work, and I was kind of shocked to find out that my cousin's 16-year-old son was like devastated. 16-year-old kid, attending public schools and otherwise living a very normal, like, suburban life. His mom she's great, my cousin, but she's one of those, socially liberal, fiscally conservative types. So the fact that her son was attached to Charlie Kirk, like, that was when it really hit me that I have really sold this guy short. And obviously the outpouring of sorrow and regret has been really powerful. And yeah, so anyways, remembering that there is no there is no talking people out, reasoning people out of things that they were never reasoned into. But at the same time, we should carry on his project of at least trying to carry on good discourse. And maybe it's not even for the sake of the people that we're arguing with, right, but the people that are hearing it. I think those might be the ones who are up for grabs a little bit more. So anyways, that's my thought. This is going to sound bad, but I am really concerned that the Irina story is pushed to the back burner as a result of the obviously awful, like, assassination. I wish we had a little bit more time to really digest that, because that also is incredibly powerful.
I think that I don't think that Charlie Kirk's incident would have hit as hard if it wasn't for the Irina kind of priming everybody for it.
And the Annunciation shooting too.
And then the Annunciation shooting the week before that.
My goodness.
We can have, right? So, like, this has been a succession of issues. And then, I don't know if y'all saw the story, but apparently 2 Muslims got caught trying to put a bomb on a news truck at UVU. Was it last night?
What?
Yeah.
As they're trying to go, and they're covering the story. So, like, we're not done. Like this is going to keep happening. But like, I know a lot of guys are struggling with like, should I be angry at this? Or like, what can I do about this? Right. And what it comes down to me, when I look at it, is like, look, man, you've got circles of influence, and you can only affect the circles of influence that you can affect, right? Like your family is your first circle of influence, right? My kids, I've got kids, from 5 to 12, right? And all they know is, hey, we're praying for a man named Charlie Kirk and his family in the Rosaries tonight. He was killed. He was murdered, because my kids know what murder means, because I make sure they know that. But also, like, that's all you need to know. Right? And they'll ask, well, why did they kill him? Like, well, just know, like, some bad men wanted to hurt him. And that's, but that first circle of influence is all I can affect, right? I can protect my family. I can provide for them. I can increase our prayer life. We can even pray for the young man that caused the killing and his family, right? Because of them. Imagine being a father and having to turn in your son after your son committed a horrible atrocity, right? I can imagine what that father, the thought process to go through that. But then out from there, what else can I affect? I mean, I can talk to guys I know at the parish about it, like some of my best friends and guys I know real well. But my influence is starting to wane, right? There's not a lot I can do, right? I can't do anything, but I still feel angry, right? And where do I direct that, right? So what do I do with that just that ball of anger that's sitting in the pit of my stomach, and it's got nowhere to go, right? And I think, with a lot of the work that you've done, I think it's helped a lot of guys realize that there are channels for it. Like I see you post, your pictures of your heavy bag, right? I think if more guys had a heavy bag, one, we'd have a lot less fat people, but two, we'd have a lot of guys that understood how to properly get out anger that they don't know how else to do. It doesn't have to be a heavy bag. It could be, exercise, go on a run or whatever, some way that is a healthy outlet for that anger, and being ready for the day that you might have to direct that anger righteously at someone else to protect your family or protect someone else who's innocent. And I think a lot of guys feel guilt about that. They feel guilt about, well, is that right? We're told, we're supposed to turn the other cheek, right? So what is your advice to guys like that? Where do they go to really understand where we have that capability to direct it?
Yeah, so I should have I should have said this when I mentioned my essay on anger, that Aquinas also clarifies that anger serves a very real purpose. I mean, so first of all, it's a natural response to injustice. So if you don't feel anger when you should, there's something wrong with you, and that is that's also a sin. He calls it an unreasonable patience. And I mean, I would argue that that is a more disordered sin than excess anger. Excess anger is at least understandable. There's at least something to work with there. The unreasonable patience that Aquinas mentioned, that's just a lack of spirit, like an internal deadness that is far more troubling to me. I mean, not obviously anger can do great damage if it's in excess, but
it's almost like a sort of acedia.
yeah, it's very closely related. I would very much agree with that.
Our priest here, one of the priests that I regularly talk with, he feels that acedia is the sin that affects men today.
Oh yeah,
I would agree.
And in fact, I don't know if y'all read anything about Jason Craig, but he had a talk on acedia with a I think it was who are those guys in Steubenville, New Polity. I think he was talking about acedia with them and the guild system, whatever. And if you've never listened to Jason Craig or anything, he's a phenomenal thinker. But it's also known as the noonday devil. It's that malaise that you feel, or that
Spiritual sloth.
Yeah, and it could be physical sloth too, but I think what affects us more is the spiritual sloth, because we live in a time now that you have the capability to really indulge in any sin that you want, right? With these little black boxes we got in our hands, right? And not being willing to resist the temptation, right? And just kind of going along to get along. Or maybe like you've created, a prayer routine for yourself and it's kind of lacking. You're not really progressing, right? Because if you're not growing or shrinking, right? Whether it's in your prayer life or physically in your when you work out. So, acedia is everything we have around us, all the technology that makes life easier, just makes acedia a lot harder to pull yourself out of.
Did you ever hear the Aquinas line about how that sloth is, he says something along the lines of, it's not necessarily a specific sin as much as it is an occasion for all sins.
Mm.
It's this lack of spiritedness that kind of renders you unwilling or incapable of not sinning. You kind of just sin as a matter of, what the hell? Like, why not? Yeah, so that is the major thing that we need to be on the lookout for. Real quick, just to go back to Aquinas on anger. He says also that anger then is for the purpose of energizing a response to the injustice that you've witnessed and that has made you angry. So what shape that response is going to take is going to be determined by prudence. And I really highly recommend to all of your listeners to read Joseph Pieper's The Four Cardinal Virtues, if you haven't. This especially his reflections on prudence, they really are eye-opening. And I mean, like I was saying earlier, the way all of these virtues have been diminished in the modern mind applies no less to prudence. Prudence we see as, it's evasiveness, it's playing it safe, it's caution, or it's something more like mere cunning. But he, drawing on the writings of Aquinas, presents this really invigorating case for prudence as the virtue which helps you to know what the good is, and then also to identify how to bring it about in the specific circumstances before you. So that's not something that is going to, there's not going to be a self-help manual that tells you what prudence dictates in each situation. You have this is about being a fully alive human being and using your brain and looking and paying attention to things and seeing the problems and opportunities as they arise. And meekness, just to tie this bow up, meekness is the virtue that allows prudence to reign supreme and not get overwhelmed by anger.
Yeah, I think a lot of us lack prudence because we were never catechized correctly. Like, I went away from the faith for a while, and I came back about, how old am I now? So probably 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago. And I learned a lot of my, I'll say this. I have refined my prudence since I've come back. Because prior to that, I made some horrible decisions. Like I was just not a good human being before I came back to the faith. And since then, it's really become a situation where I don't, how to put this, I don't know what my left and right guardrails are, right, for a while, right, until I started reading the saints, or I started reading the catechism, or I needed some type of guide to at least give me an idea of, okay, well, what am I allowed to do? What can I do? Or what is good decision look like? And I think what that requires a little bit as well is obedience, first of all, because, for me, it came down to a situation where I had to basically say, whatever the church teaches, I'm going to follow that no matter what, even if I disagree with it, because I'm obviously a horrible person and I've made some horrible decisions, and those decisions have taken me down a path that I didn't like. And I know that the reading the lives of the saints is a much better life that I want to be attuned to. So, for example, when I came back to the faith, I lived in Georgia at the time. I was going to a non-denominational church, and I was running a small group at this Protestant church for veterans. And as all Protestants do, they always want to, harken back to the early church and how the early church operated. And I was like, you know what, we got to have something we can read from the first Christians. How do they operate? And so I'm looking out for these writings, and I started reading this guy. His name's Polycarp, right? And I started reading this other guy, Ignatius of Antioch, or Irenaeus, and I'm like, oh no, this is super Catholic. Like, what do I do? Because if I were to choose a religion to follow, it would be Islam, right? It would be some type of hedonistic, nihilistic, where I could do whatever I want, which is where we see guys like Andrew Tate do.
You'd be a pagan.
We also see a lot of guys that join Eastern Orthodoxy because Catholicism is a little too hard, right? I want to be Catholic, but American Catholic, so I want to be Eastern Orthodox, right? I don't have to deal with the Pope because the United States was built on non-serviam, so I want to be in a religion that can do everything all the Catholic stuff does. I just don't have to worry about a president or a king, right? And so when I started grounding myself, I was like, okay, well, if the church teaches this, then I have to follow it, even if I don't like it, because one, I'm not smart enough to reason my way around it either. But even if I could, I wouldn't, because the men who put these thoughts down were way smarter than me, and they lived much harder lives than I do. We live very comfortable lives now. I mean, the amount of technology we have to make our lives super easy is unimaginable to anybody that was even 50 years ago. But I had to refine my prudence and my thought process and put guardrails up for myself, and then be able to understand, like, where was there some leeway on some things? Where was the black and white and where was the gray, as long as I'm in line with what the church thinks. And that was a matter of me having to basically tear away my own foundation that I had built up on straw, basically, and put down some better foundation with some stone to prop myself up, because I was having to almost be like a child coming back into this, and realizing, like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I needed some way of putting those left and right lateral limits on myself so I could start to develop better prudence. And now, I make pretty good decisions now, I think, hopefully. If my wife is watching, I hope I am.
You started doing a podcast with me, so good luck there.
Yeah,
buddy.
I know. So maybe I don't have good prudence. Maybe I don't.
Yeah, I like the point about obedience. At the very least, realizing that if there's this teaching of the church that you don't like, it is at least incumbent upon you to understand why that teaching is in place, and to look deeper into it than to be ruled by that willfulness, which immediately is made uncomfortable by this or that teaching, and then pushes it away. So, yeah, I would say that's a good exercise of it.
So were you, when you came back to the faith, I'm assuming, do you have access to a Latin mass where you're at?
We do it's about 50 minutes away. We also have a very based Novus Ordo mass from our pastor is a former Anglican.
Mm.
So I attend the based local Novus Ordo mass.
And that's because it's closer.
Yeah, and it's because it's my community. There's a
Mm.
there's a really strong church
Mm.
here that I want to be a part of.
Gotcha. I think that's the opinion like Rob and I and Anthony have had is, look, man, you go where you've got access, right? You have to do what's best for you and your family. So like, you'll never hear me ever talk down to somebody because they have to go to a Novus Ordo, right? Our Latin mass is about 45 minutes away. But I also chose to live this far out because I wanted land, right? So this is part of the decision-making process. But I also knew, as long as I'm about 45 minutes away, that's as far as I want to go. And we go to everything, but I also knew I've got a lot more time commitment because I'm going to have to drive farther for things. As most Latin mass parishes are, there's no cluster to the community, right? They're spread out everywhere. And ours is in probably the most dangerous city in Alabama and maybe in the United States. And it's not the most desirable place to go, but we make it a purpose to go there just because it's mostly because of the kids. If it was just me and my wife, we probably would go. Well, I won't even say that now. When we first started she first got back to the faith, we probably may have gone to a Novus Ordo and been fine with it if it was just us. But now that we have kids, the issue is, I'm trying to create that foundation for my children. And I can't afford the liturgical roulette that a Novus Ordo gives.
Sure.
Like once that priest is gone, the next priest that comes in could be way worse. And how do I explain that to the kids that now we have to move because, Father Bob up there at the front, in his sandals smell like patchouli oil and doesn't say the Confiteor, right? And tells everybody that, love is love. While we have to now leave, right? And so I wanted kids to have a stable foundation for their life, and hopefully they have it better than I did, because I grew up and I saw the clown mass growing up. I saw the priest dressed as Santa Claus during Christmas, right? I've seen these horrible masses growing up, and I don't want my children to ever have that. And thankfully, the Latin Mass removes that risk, but it just requires some more time commitment. But for guys that you don't have access to a Latin Mass, go to the best one you can, right? If you have a really good community, like it sounds like you do at yours, George, make it the best you can, right? Because hopefully one day we will all have a better Mass. In the diocese I live in, we're pretty blessed we have actually some pretty good English Novus Ordo masses, but it's not like that everywhere. I do a lot of traveling for work, and I've seen some really, really bad masses on websites that were supposed to be telling me they were a good mass. And, I just see what the average mass is out there, and it is horrible, unfortunately. And most people don't have that option. So at your parish, I'm assuming because you kind of hinted at it on your X feed, you've got a pretty good community of men built up there now.
Yeah, definitely. I'm fascinated to see where these developments that you're talking about are going to take it. I mean, yeah, it is a turn of roulette when you're strolling into a Novus Ordo parish that you've not been to. As far though as the the younger, much more devout priests that are rising, that is going to make things fascinating. I mean, I've been fascinated to note the some of the aging clergy. I've got a great aunt who is a Benedictine nun, and she is really unhappy with the Orthodox turn of the new generation of priests. And I mean, even in my parish, the priest recently reinstituted the individual kneelers for receiving communion on, and he had to beg the older members of the parish to not make a stink of this, that it's totally optional if you want to kneel while receiving the host. He is not making people kneel to receive the host, but he is aware that there is going to be a boomer backlash towards any kind of reestablishment of tradition. Fascinating stuff.
It's interesting to see the priests that are making that business like calculation, right? Because these boomers are only going to be around for maybe 10 more years, right? And then that income's gone. And if you don't start catering to the youth, and youth is very loose in this, because this is really, I'm 44 years old, right? And so I'm considered young in a lot of Novus Ordo parishes. But if he doesn't start catering to me and my kind, right, he's not going to have a parish to even say mass at in front of anybody. Anyway, he might do it at a personal altar in a home or in a townhouse he has to rent because his parish has gone belly up. But the calculation that some of these men are making is, look, you can't cater to these elderly anymore just because they donate some money. Because once they're gone and you've basically catered every one of their whims, you've got nobody left. But then the other side of it is you have a lot of, pastors over the last 15, 20 years who have always catered to them and have always given the excuse, well, when I'm a pastor somewhere, then I'll make the change. Oh, well, then if I'm a Monsignor somewhere, well, then I'll make the change. Right. Oh, if I'm a bishop somewhere, then I'll make the change. If you've habituated yourself to always giving in, that you are not going to grow a spine later on in life. It's just not going to happen. You have gotten yourself into a habit of always capitulating for what may happen in the future, and you no longer know how to stand up for yourself or for your parish. And I think we're going to see a demographic cliff here soon. Here in my diocese, it's a lot of these parishes are blue hairs and oxygen bottles. And it's, in the next 5 years, I would not be surprised if we didn't close 10 parishes. I mean, hopefully it's not that soon. Maybe it's 15 years, and maybe we got some time to kind of return things back to a more robust faith life in a lot of these parishes, but I just don't see it, man. It's just they've pushed families out for so long that there's no families that even want to come back to it.
Yeah, it's I mean, you talk about exercising prudence. These our failure to do that is going to have tremendous consequences. And for a pastor like mine who's in that position of having to push as much back toward the old way as he can without totally alienating the older crowd, that's it's a tremendous task before him. But you're right. Ultimately, one has to have a spine. Courage informs, or courage protects prudence, allows for the exercise of good judgment, so that we are not overwhelmed by our fear, our cowardice. all of those virtues work together wonderfully.
I know we only have a couple more minutes here before you got to go, George. But
I'm actually good to go a little bit longer if you want to.
Awesome.
I got him all psyched up. He's ready to
Yeah.
go. So, George, let me ask you. So, our show is really about building community amongst men to help them prepare for what's coming. So, without revealing where you live, do you carry a firearm every day?
I do not. No, we're.
Can you?
Yes.
What's stopping you?
I live in a really good small town. Now, to your point, this is something that I need to take strides towards doing. But at present, I'm in one of the best cities in America as far as that goes.
Is it a homogenous community?
It is.
Yeah. So I would enjoy the time that you have in that community now, while you can. But my piece of advice would be, because I've lived in some really good areas and I've lived in some really bad areas. That may be something that you want to look at, right? Or at least get training with something. Maybe you don't carry every day. Because it's a perishable skill even for me.
Sure.
Like I'm blessed. I have land here I can shoot on whenever I want. But that's a recent development for me, right? That's only over the last few years. Prior to that, I had to get to the range to be able to do it. And that was a hard task with 3 infants at home, pretty much. And then my wife working at the same time, is real hard to do. And shooting is a very perishable skill. If you don't shoot often, you will lose it. And so I would encourage you to consider taking that a little bit more seriously. And I think you by your community, it's kind of made you a little lax, as it should, right? Because you're where we should be. I shouldn't have to carry a firearm, right? In fact, tomorrow I'm taking the family on a trip tomorrow that's about an hour and a half away into a large city, and the basis of me really going and taking off the day of work is because I don't like my wife being over there by herself with the kids, right? And so I have to be there to make sure that they're okay. But that's not how we should be living. We should be living like you are, where you don't have to worry about these things because you live in a really good community. But those eventually go away. And as things are starting to deteriorate and collapse, that may be a consideration for you. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, if you have any, or if you've got a local guy that knows more than me, talk to him about it. But if you were to carry, what would you carry?
Here, I would defer to you. What should I be looking to carry?
Biggest thing you can.
A good old
You're a big guy.
Swine.
You're a pretty big guy, though, right? You're decently tall.
I can handle. Yeah, I can handle.
Yeah. So, I mean, anything full size would be good for you.
Nice.
Something reliable. Yeah, Beretta. You can't go wrong with Beretta.
No.
Okay.
Oldest firearm manufacturer in the world, and they're Catholic too.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with the Beretta. And do not listen to any veteran that tells you not to get a Beretta, because they got the Beretta that is about 30 years old, and it was used to beat in tent spikes and other things, right? So you can't trust a veteran with their Beretta. Being a veteran, right? I know I've had those horrible Berettas and went on deployment with them. But buying, Berettas are a very good one. I carry Glock sometimes now, but I've kind of transitioned to more of a single action, double action pistol, just because, man, I shoot really good with it. Like, the trigger is so much better in it. and I can hit a headshot from like 50 yards away. So, but that's a skill I've had to develop. So with where you live and the community you live in, what do you and your guys, do y'all do any type of martial arts, boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, so we had this great based local gym, independent gym, and it was a wonderful place, but the music just got out of control.
Like degenerate.
Yeah, yeah, and it really hit me. I guess I've been getting more sensitive to music as I've gotten older. But that mystical song about shake your ass, but watch yourself. The first line in that song, you might be familiar with this or not, but the first line is, "I came here with my dick in my hands," and when I heard that, I'm like, "What the hell are we doing?"
Sounds like they were carrying a P320.
So at that point, my friends and I decided that we were going to transition out of that gym, and we built a really, really solid garage setup in my garage, and it's also so we've got we got 3 squat racks actually, but we've also made it into like a kickboxing gym. So I've got a friend who was an amateur boxer, and we do some training in that. And to your point, you had mentioned earlier getting a heavy bag, and it's an utterly transformative piece of equipment. When you learn to hit that thing well, you really awaken energies within that I certainly hadn't known were there. So that's what we're working on. My friends and I are also big into local politics and trying to get on city council and the various commissions and being active and involved in that. So that's been a really worthy project, and the barriers to entry are pretty high, especially they're probably higher in other places too, but that's one of the places where I think guys have to be spending a little bit more of their energy.
Yeah. We I live in a pretty small town here. I think we have like 7,000 people in this town, and we just had a mayoral election, and one of the guys running for mayor it wasn't a debate, it was like a platform. Everybody kind of say what their platform is. And he's an old guy. He's probably in his late 60s, and I say old, late 60s, early 70s. And when he got done, and it's just kind of indicative of I guess of the life that he lives. But I guess he's an old party guy, and running for mayor. And as he got done with his platform, which was ridiculous, he did the crip walk back to his chair. I'm like, brother, you're 68 and white. What are we doing? What? Like, and then to come to find out, of like 1,000 people who voted, he got like 28 votes. And I'm like, man, 28 people voted for that guy. Like, this is probably like all his party buddies, but like he still got 28 votes. I can't believe that. That's wild. But we had young guys running for a lot of the city council. We had an 18-year-old running for city council, and he's in a runoff with the incumbent now. And we have to go vote again, I think in like next week. And so like it is, if you're in a small town, it is very easy. I won't say very, it is easier to get involved with local politics than a lot of other areas, because you might have to get in, if you live in a larger area or a larger city, you might have to get in through adjacent ways, like, volunteer on the board of the library or something. And then you get known there. And then now now I'm going to run for, whatever, the animal control officer or whatever. Right. And then you kind of work your way up from there, because if you're not if you're not getting involved with local politics, you're basically saying I'm okay with whatever happens, right? Because your vote is one person, and it's not going to be enough to make a change. And if you're not getting involved with our principles and our faith to redirect things to where they should be, then you have no really right to complain as much, right? You can complain a little bit, but only a little bit.
And it doesn't have to be even running for office or anything like that. Especially in smaller communities, just develop relationships with those on the city council or school board or mayor or whatever, and influence that way. Here in our little small town, which is like 1,500, the city just built a brand new playground for kids, and we were there the day they opened with my kids. And our state here, of course, legalized cannabis. I'm not sure how long ago, but as my kids are playing, we could smell weed because there were some parents there smoking it. And I actually, the house we rent from the mayor. So we just texted the mayor and told her, and next thing I know, like after the next city council meeting, a new city ordinance comes out. So
Really?
yeah, it was
Nice.
kind of nice actually.
Another possibility is just to your point, Rob, about forming relationships, also developing response networks, building up a coalition of informed and concerned people to spread the word when there's a big issue coming up, and all of your county commissioners need to be informed, like a mass email campaign. We had an issue here where the county commissioners voted to back a bond for a quote mental health provider, who is really big on LGBT stuff and DEI stuff. And basically this was going to put our county taxpayers on the hook for this. If this organization couldn't make their mortgage payments, the county was going to be on the hook. This was a really bad deal, and just on top of this organization being really questionable. But anyways, we put together a petition, and we were able to exert enough influence to get the county commissioners to change course a little bit and actually put the measure on the popular ballot in an upcoming election. So that was a lot. I mean, it took a lot of time and it took a lot of effort, but those are the kinds of things that are possible when you get involved.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been big on building community, and I try to stress that to a lot of guys in our parish, because we'll have new guys come to like this Sunday, we went to an early mass, so we didn't see, but apparently our normal high mass was busting at the seams.
Oh, nice.
The issue we always have when we have new people come to the Latin Mass is they're like, well, nobody really reached out to me. Nobody really, welcomed us in. And, from myself, if I see somebody new, I'm trying to talk to them right after Mass. I'm not talking to you in the sanctuary. We're not talking to you in church, right? I'll talk to you after Mass out in the lawn as everybody's leaving. But a lot of these guys, they want everything to be brought to them. They want, programs and Bible studies and everything already set up so they can just kind of sneak in the back, sit in the back seat, not really be involved. They don't really want to commit, right? Because they want to be able to leave whenever they want, because there's a lack of committance. I don't even know if that's a word, but I just made it up. So now it is, a lack of commitment amongst people now, because we have been given so many choices that you can choose whenever. Not, like you pull up Netflix, you can literally watch anything you want. and you have a analysis paralysis basically, and we see that in mass as well with people who show up. And I tell guys all the time when I meet them, and I'm actually able to talk to them, you have to put it into this community, because I can't tell you how many people we see come to mass and we see them like twice and they never come back. We'll say hi to you, we'll find out where you're from, but when you start coming back, you're going to have more people talking to you, but you have to put back into the community. You have to give some of yourself as well, right? You have to help out with things. When we do potluck, right, you need to be helping, clean up afterwards as well, because this isn't just somewhere where you just take all the time. We have to build this community, and I think that's why our parish does so well, because we have a phenomenal community. And it's weird to me because I thought all Latin masses had this. But we have people come visit us all the time from Latin masses, like, I can't believe how good y'all's community are. Like, isn't everybody like this? Like, and I was just kind of shocked by that. But we have made it a point to build this community and welcome everybody in that we can. But it's also a matter of, you have to put out as well. You can't just take all the time. And hopefully that changes here soon. And hopefully much more people are willing to commit to something a little bit more than a single serve use of that event or parish or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, it really seems like, and it's no accident that those people, those newcomers, are eager to receive, eager to be accommodated. As you were saying, I mean, they have been specifically trained to be that way. That is how modern, enlightened, consumeristic society has made us to be. So a new mode of living is going to be tough for a lot of people, but it's absolutely crucial for building anything worthwhile.
Yeah, we have specifically chosen to live the way we do, even though it's harder, right? I live on a little farm. We've got cows and pigs and chickens, and it's been really hard the past few days because my pigs keep getting out, and it's annoying to get those guys back in. And it's even more annoying because we haven't had any rain in like 3 or 4 weeks, so the ground's super hard, which means our electric fence doesn't ground very well. So they just lift up the fence and shoot on out, and then all of a sudden I have no chicken feed left because they ate all the chicken feed and they're all fat and happy laying next to the chicken feeder.
Well, then they can't be that hard to catch.
Yeah, what you ever picked up a pig? Man,
No.
you better do it with some ear protection. It's horrible. But we chose to live this way, even though, man, it would be so easy just to live in the suburb and, watch the games on Saturday and take the kid and just drop them off at public school all the time and not really worry about things. But we did that for a little bit. And when we first got married, we first had kids, and we didn't like the way the world was going, and we wanted to change it and how we were living. And so we specifically, we homeschool the kids now. I think it is a derelict of parents to put your children in public school, especially now, we've seen how many teachers are getting fired for their jobs the past 5 days for being happy on social media that Charlie Kirk was murdered. How many of those are teachers at public schools? It's in the thousands, and that's just the ones that said.
Is it just Adrian? George, are you still
me?
there? I can hear you. Adrian's got some iffy internet on that small farm.
Man, the
The pig
demons
chew through the line.
the demons don't like it. But it's a derelict, to send your kids for someone else to put their values in them for 8 hours a day. And then you get them for 2 hours before dinner and maybe an hour after dinner before they go to bed. Right. And with what we've seen, I think we all have to make those hard choices to value the good as opposed to the easy.
Yeah, amen. Absolutely.
Well, George, if you don't mind, let's see if we got some questions for anybody for you.
We did have a
Um,
couple already that were, let's see here. This is the one I've seen so far. Can you comment on Daryl Cooper? That's Martyr Made podcast for anyone who doesn't know. Daryl Cooper's tweet that if his son ever did something he couldn't live with, like with the Charlie Kirk shooter, he'd never turn him in, but would take him camping and quote unquote take care of it.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Starting with the easy ones here.
I mean, I guess my first thought is that loving somebody is when you love somebody, you do want justice for them. And if they have done ill, like if they have done ill, justice is it's not, punishment is not just punishment. It's also restorative. It's also helping them to see the error in their ways and be made to feel some pain so that they come to see what they did in a different light. Gosh, so I can assume that Cooper would make a really good argument for his course of action, but my thought would be that this kid should face the consequences, and a loving parent should see to it. I don't know. I got to think about it more. What do you guys think of that?
I obviously I don't know. I didn't see if he made further argument on that, but I would imagine like the only thing I could see justifying that sort of action is the idea that the American justice system and prison system doesn't really usually lead to true justice or true retribution, things of that nature. Someone entering the prison system isn't usually the most likely to repent of their sins. Now, those facing the death penalty usually do repent of their sins at a much higher rate. But even then, in the American justice system, you're going to be, sitting on death row for 20, 30 years, and that's a lot of extra time to commit more sin potentially. If it was a case of a quick and speedy trial and punishment, that would be one thing. But that's not the case we have. But does that justify that sort of action? I don't know if it does.
I wonder what he means by take care of it. Like, in the Marines, if I had a Lance Corporal that was being out of line, we took him to the wood line and we corrected it, right? That way he wouldn't have permanent record, following him everywhere, right? Taking him camping and taking care of it. Like, is he insinuating that he would take his own child's life? Like, it'd be much easier for me to turn my child in than to kill my child. But to both of y'all's point, where does the restorative justice come in? Because as we've seen with Arena, that guy was released 14 times.
Oh man,
he was released again, by the way.
Well, yeah, and
after this,
then we have the Anakin Skywalker meme to it, right? Good. I'm glad they let him out. But like for instance, in the founding of this country, the death penalty was proposed that the only way that you could sentence someone to death if there was 3 eyewitnesses to the crime, and that's extremely hard. And it's a very, very extremely high bar, right? Even though the Lord gives the authority to the government to exact the death penalty, the founders even saw like, this can be abused very easily. But now we're at the other end of where we are not a good and moral people, as was intended by the founders. And, maybe we're in a situation where we should be exacting the death penalty for more things than what we have recently. This is not something I've really sat down and properly thought out, but the issue with the death penalty is, even if you're on death row for 20 or 30 years, there have been instances where guys have gotten or escaped from death row and killed more people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So now, because we were unwilling to exact the justice that was due, more people lost their lives. Or even someone in jail who, was attacked by someone in death row, and, maybe they're just in there for a white collar crime and now they're dead, because, this dangerous convict got access to them for whatever reason. So for me, if it were my son and he did that horrible thing, I would probably do what the dad did in Charlie Kirk. I would make him turn himself in. And I would ensure that he does it. And then let the justice system go where it goes. And hopefully my son understands the wrong of what he did.
At the very least, if he is as unwell as this guy has to be, he needs to be restrained so that he can't do anything like this again. I mean, to your point, Adrian, like, first things first, we need to take him out of a position where he could ever continue on with this kind of behavior. That would be the most immediate benefit of turning the kid in.
At what point do we stop blaming things on mental health and just call it evil?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Not everything is because you had a chemical imbalance, right? Sometimes you're just evil, and the justice needs to be met out to remove that evil. I think we are a country that has been developed to be ruled by affluent white women, suburban affluent white women, who are just want everybody to be their friend, and they never want to cause any type of controversy or any kind of conflict, and so they perpetuate these things. And we just need to call it for what it is. It's just evil, and it needs to be removed.
Yeah. Do you think disordered is a little bit too much of a scholarly term? I would that was the word that came to my mind. He's hopelessly disordered.
Well, I think disordered it could be an appropriate term depending on what it is. For him, for Tyler Robinson, I don't think it's a matter of disorder. He was raised in a family with everything he would have needed, and he started making decisions based on the kind of life he wanted to live.
To be fair, though, it doesn't have to be like a medical disorder. It can be,
like same-sex attraction,
spiritual disorder,
right?
Like same-sex attraction is a disorder, right? That's why previously in canon law, if you had same-sex attraction, you were not allowed to serve as a priest at all, because you were disordered in your thinking. You cannot come back from that, right? You can never have an ordered way of thinking when you have and as we know now, most people who have same-sex attraction suffer some type of abuse earlier in life by a parent or a close loved one. It was either verbal, sexual, emotional, some type of abuse. And that leaves a stain on most people that it takes a lifetime to try and correct. And most people can never do it because it's so disruptive. But I think disordered is on the same level as ecumenical, right? We use it as like a soft, squishy word in order to categorize things that we don't want to accurately define.
Yeah. Yeah. The language here, as in so many cases, has been kind of rigged against us. And to your point, we've been trained to talk about this in therapeutic terms,
Mm-hmm.
in clinical terms, when there's something much more immediate and disturbing going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Do we have another question, Rob?
I'm looking here. None that I can see right now.
Well, George, why don't you tell us what you got going on? I know you're good on Substack. I subscribe to Substack again, by the way.
All right.
I have a theory. I have a practice that I always support the homies, and so I try and patron, all the guys that are doing good out there, and I think you're doing a lot of good. I know you've got the Substack, and you're on X a lot. I heard you mention that you're coming out with the second edition of your book.
Yeah. Writing a book is such a fascinating and bewildering and trying thing to do, that and then once the book is out there, it's separate from you, and you reread certain passages and you're not quite good with that passage anymore. So my thoughts developed a little bit, and I want to polish up a few things. So I'm working on piece by piece getting a second edition ready.
I think it'll be good. I think a lot of guys, I think a lot more are going to want to read it now. And I think it'll do a lot of good. One of the first shows we did was going over Rick Barrett's book, The Armed Catholic, and providing a lot of documentation and background for, the proper use of self-defense in our faith, in the way that our church teaches it. But I think, your book is a lot more in line to get us all on the same level of thinking, and to try and bust that rust off of this pacifistic Catholicism that we are all raised in and steeped in, and to kind of bust out of that shell into the more robust, assertive Catholicism that our past patrons of the faith participated in. We didn't get a lot into the talk about. I wanted to talk about Raymond Ibrahim because you and I both have a love for his writing.
He's great.
Well, I'm going to try and see if I can blackmail him into coming on. Nice. But I think the next time we have you on, assuming you liked being on this time,
yeah, indeed, love to be back.
That we'll talk about the Crusades, because I think that will really tie in to this, and it kind of like a part 2 to this show of where our history is and where the men that really symbolized where we want to be, and without the LARP of Protestants and their Crusader patches and desires to be like where those men actually were in their faith, and what they did about the oncoming onslaught of whether it be Islam or whatever. But I think that'll be the next time we have you on. I'd love to talk to you and get your thoughts on that.
We did get 3 questions.
Of course we did, because I started closing him out.
Yeah, I know, right? So we have 3. These are the last 3.
Now, I'm trying to be sensitive of your time, George. I'm trying to be sensitive.
No, I'm good.
These are the last 3 we're going to take, everyone.
Let's get to them.
Okay. We'll just see which one came first. So Crash Cannon, Chris over at Crash Cannon. So there's a huge difference between criticizing ideas and celebrating assassination. What are our opinions on the firings of the people who have celebrated it? I guess, do we all think it's just?
I liked that Daniel McCarthy tweet about precisely that point. That there is a massive difference between canceling somebody for being against same-sex marriage versus somebody who is baying for blood, like some of these people are. And I mean, especially when we're talking about if these people are like in the healthcare industry, if this is how they feel, can they be trusted to provide care to somebody who comes in who likes Charlie Kirk a lot?
I mean, what if I go in for a surgery with my scapular? You know, like, are they going to let me die on the table?
If you're an organ donor, they will.
We've tried to do things the moderate way. We've tried to go the route of civility. We've tried to never ever turn up the temperature because, you know, what if the roles were reversed and all of that stuff? And gosh, it just hasn't worked out that well for us. So I'm not sure exactly what the specifics are, but a much more vigorous approach is going to have to be required. And Jesse Kelly's tweet was really clutch. He said, and he's being very cheeky, but he says, if the task before Donald Trump right now is to avert a violent right-wing revolution, which is going to arise in anger and smash the left. And you would do that by actually being responsible and putting down these threats as prudence necessitates. And if you don't do that, you're actually you're playing with fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you really are.
It reminds me of what the Norm Macdonald quote. What concerns me,
like if ISIS got a nuke.
Yeah, if ISIS got a nuke, is how many poor Muslims would be persecuted because of whatever it was. You know, it's just we're in a.
Well, they detonated it in a major metropolitan area
and killed 50,000 people. How many poor Muslims would be persecuted? The
backlash is going to be insufferable.
And I think the right has had an issue of, well, if we do this and when they're in power, they're going to do even worse. Like they've already done it. They've already shown what they're willing to. Like, do y'all remember COVID? Like how many grandmothers died in the hospital and no one could be there with them and hold their hand, right? Because they just made rules up because they talked about it at a cocktail party while it was going on, right? Getting someone fired for reveling and threatening more violence. In fact, you're not firing that person,
right? You're just letting an employer know what was said in public.
This is the person that is representing your company. Do you want to be represented by this person? Right? There's that woman. She's on TikTok. She's got like 600,000 views, and her husband owns an electrical service company, and his business is doing poorly.
Sure.
He had to take his website down. He's had people come to his business, asking him if his wife is representative of his business, and like I'm sure he's losing business, But those are the consequences of being so free on social media, right? I get a little fiery sometimes on X, but I just want to let y'all know the stuff that comes out on X, it made it past my filter. Imagine the stuff that doesn't make it past my filter. Right. And I keep back. Okay. But I have to be measured because like, I'm not representing anybody, but I'm representing myself and I'm going to be held account for every word I say.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. And so I have to be very cautious of what I say. And these people they've lived in such a time of impunity where they don't have to worry about their actions because they've always had overwatch by the government. Right. Because they have the acceptable opinion by the people in power. And now they don't. And they're shocked that they are receiving the same responsibility, the same actions that we did for 5 years.
I saw a funny tweet about that. It was the liberals OPSEC is so poor because they're not used to having to watch their back, that it's like a uncontacted tribe getting one-shotted by malaria or by smallpox.
That's good.
Yeah.
So we have a couple more here.
Okay.
And this I'm a melancholic as well. Melancholic phlegmatic, but so if you have a melancholic choleric temperament, how do you not fall to the worst extremes of each, one being cold and emotionless, ruthless and wrathful, but the other being tepid? I think this could. How do we not fall to any of our temperaments, like worse sides?
Mm-hmm. Man, so when it comes to the temperaments, you're meant to progress out of those into kind of the opposite temperament eventually, right? Like I'm choleric, sanguine, whatever it is. My wife knows these way better than I do. But and when people are like, you're a choleric, yeah, and I saw that. I can figure that out. But my issues that I've had to work on is empathy for people, because I'm very cold and calculating about things, and I've had to learn it, and having children has done that, right? And so I've had to learn to not be as black and white with things, especially when it comes to my kids, which has made me a better husband as well, because that translates into how I relate to my wife. But what you need is a good set of friends. They're going to tell you the truth to your face, and you have to be okay with that. And you have to be okay with being offended by your friends, because if you don't have anybody that's willing to tell you something that's hard for you to hear, you don't have any friends. You have acquaintances that you see probably a little bit more frequently than you probably need to. You need to develop relationships with people and be vulnerable enough with people where they are able to tell you when you're being a jerk, right? Or help you talk these things out. And if you don't have those yet, you need to find those men and surround yourself with those men who you want to be more like, and start to put yourself into their circle of influence so that they are willing to give themselves to you a little bit.
Friendship is always a good answer.
And it's been an answer to a few of the questions tonight. So it's something that when it comes to politics or temperaments or so much is based on friendship or helped by friendship and fraternity in general.
Mm-hmm.
So the last one I said we'd get to is very disappointed in most of the bishops on addressing the assassination of Charlie Kirk. This person lives in Oklahoma City, and his bishop has said nothing. And kind of just to add to that is, I think it was on day 4 after George Floyd, the USCCB put out a statement, and today is the 4th day, it might have been yesterday, since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And other than Bishop Barron, and I think Bishop, who's in Arlington, Burbridge, something like that,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So there have been a couple bishops that have put out really good statements, but for the most part, it's been nothing. So what do you guys think about that?
I'm so jaded, I don't expect my bishop to put anything out. One, it's not going to affect me whatsoever if he does or doesn't. But you also have to realize a lot of these guys were elevated to bishop because they have no backbone. Right? They're yes men, a lot of them. But the other side of it is, what do you expect them to say that your priest already isn't going to say if you go to a good parish?
Yeah.
And so would I like them to say something? Yes, maybe, it would be nice for at least to show sympathy for the family, right? And to pray for, and to implore all of us to pray for his soul. But the other end of it is like, why would we expect that of him? Is he wasn't Catholic, right? And I know there's a lot of rumors out there about his where he was in his faith. I think Candace Owens had some stuff to say today as well. I haven't watched any of that, but as far as we know, he never made a profession of faith as a Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And so their responsibility to say something lessens from there as well. But I think, if they say anything, it's going to be about the violence. But they already deal with a lot of violence because every one of these cities has a lot of violence already. Right. And so, especially if you live in a city, every city is a Democrat stronghold. I can't even think of a Republican city anymore, like a large city, like little townships and stuff. Yeah. But, so they're already dealing with massive amounts of violence all the time. I don't know what we expect them to say.
I think for me, it's not the issue I have isn't an expectation of them to say something on this. It's that they find the time and energy to say stuff on so much other crap, right? Mm-hmm. On climate change, on properly punishing criminals with just penalties like the death penalty and gun, so-called gun violence, so on and so forth. You have, bishops talking about anything and everything. Then you come to something like this, and besides a few, they're quiet. And like you said, it's not that we should expect them to say something. It's that I think, need to expect them to say less about other things.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what a moment this would be if the church actually had its act together?
Well,
I want to. It's actually worse than just them speaking out in sympathy for George Floyd. Do you remember when that LGBTQIA plus group in Los Angeles, the Little Sisters of whatever,
the ones that did the thing at the Dodger game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was an organization, or there was an attempt to organize a march by Catholics that was going to start at the cathedral, I think, and then go down to Dodger Stadium. And they were trying to get the bishop involved, and the bishop was unwilling to take a side in that dispute.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, it's so wild.
Yeah. Well, and there was a situation in Phoenix, Arizona, where they say the Black Mass was going to be said, and the bishop there pulled all his support from the Catholics there that were kind of protesting it, right? And like Jesse Romero had to go there, and he tried to do the politician thing and trying to he had his auxiliary bishop was here, and but he pulled that that support. Like, imagine if we had one bishop, right? Well, and we did, and they removed him. But if we had one bishop that was willing to stand up no matter what, right, and say what we all want a Catholic bishop with a spine to say, right? But we had that, and they removed him, right? So now that makes the rest of the bishops who would do that, because what they're doing is they're doing internal calculus. They're doing like, well, I can do more good by staying here and keeping my head down and helping my people here than providing, a figurehead for a robust faith, right? And that's the calculation they're doing. But I think what they're missing is how much influence that bishop that got taken down, Bishop Strickland, had and still has, even though he doesn't have a diocese, right? And if we had another one that stood up and he got taken down for it, like, people are going to start noticing, and courage is contagious. And once they start seeing, and once one more bishop does it, then eventually we will see many more people willing to put themselves on the line, regardless of the consequences.
And if we look at history, like, in almost any of the situation in the past, it's very rarely been bishops that have stood up and led the way, right? It's almost always a monk or a parish priest or something like that, or even Joan of Arc. You didn't have bishops necessarily going out and preaching the Crusades. It was Saint Bernard of Clairvaux and things of that nature. So bishops, I mean, I'm not gonna say that we don't have especially bad bishops now, because I think we have historically bad bishops in the church, but they've always kind of been, like you said, Adrian, kind of just calculating
Mhm.
company men in a sense, to maintaining the status quo, whatever that status quo is at the time.
Yep.
One thing that strikes me that I want to do is I need to identify all of the good hardline priests on Twitter and put together a list and then try to make sure that their voices are amplified so that we at the very least hear from priests who aren't on board with the agenda, let's put it.
Mhm.
So I'm going to try and get to work on that the next couple of days.
I think the issue that you're going to find with that is some of those priests, like I can think of like Father Darren Schmidt, right, who is just rock solid, and Father Dave Nix, right. These are all priests who are very willing to sacrifice themselves for the good of the faith. But when we start, and some of these guys, you're going to find, unfortunately, when they do start getting highlighted and they are kind of promoted, and they're getting a bigger audience and they're getting more criticism, you're going to start seeing some compromising made because they got a little bit bigger than they wanted to be, right? And so hopefully that doesn't happen. But I just, human nature, what it is, people are much more willing to say what they want to say if they're anonymous. But once they have to take responsibility for what they've said, they usually tone it down quite a bit more. So I just be prepared that you may get some DMs, like if some of those guys start getting some promotion from much bigger accounts.
Fair point.
All right. Is that all the questions we have for George?
A couple others have come in, so it all depends on how much.
Well, George, I don't want to hold you, brother. If you want to go, you can go. I know some of these people have some questions about firearms and stuff like that. And someone was asking about Kirk, if he was actually wearing body armor or not earlier. I saw that question.
There was that. There was how to talk to your priest about security teams, things like that. So more.
You're more than welcome to hang out, brother, if you want to. But if you want to go, it's great too. It's been good talking to you. But we'll answer some of these questions. That way we're not going to be here all night, because I know a lot of these people don't have they don't have anybody else to ask these questions of.
Sure.
Right. And so I try and give what experience I have. And if I don't know, then, I direct them somewhere that has better information than I do. But let's go ahead and pull those up.
I should run here. I
right.
want to thank you though. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Love to come back on.
Yeah, for sure.
You are welcome back anytime. If you got something on your mind, you want to pop on and talk to us, let me know.
We'll have to give you the lovely experience of talking with Anthony sometime too.
All right. Looking forward to it.
All right, George. Take care of yourself, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Have
God
a great
bless.
night. You too. Thank you. Let me change this around real quick. Okay. I didn't really start too many other ones. I got one here. So we'll just start with this one.
Okay.
How do we practically move toward a solution without vigilante violence? Political situation is hopeless. Things are only getting worse. I guess for me, it depends on what you mean by the political situation. Are we going to vote our way out of this during the midterms of the next presidential election? Like, no. So I don't know if the American political system has a solution here, but there are, there are political actions we can take, and you get to, I mean, politics is basically just how you put your values in action, like out in the public sphere, you know. So informing an employer about one of their employees saying something is, in a sense, like it is a political action. You know, tearing down these leftist organizations, even, you know, extra judiciously if necessary, or extra constitutionally if necessary. I mean, is that outside of the American political system? Yeah, sure, but it is a maybe part of a political solution.
I think in a lot of aspects we are past the political solution. This is a spiritual issue more than anything. As far as vigilante justice, so when it comes to a situation, what's called WROL, without rule of law, the history, basically the previous patterns that happens is anytime that a authority is unable to exert its force out to enforce laws, you start getting into the settling of scores.
Yeah.
So if you live in a small town and the police aren't able to respond to you because, you know, they're locked up, you know, with some other situation on the other side of town, you're going to see people, you know, if they think there aren't going to be any consequences, or a very low chance of them being caught, you're going to see people start to settle those scores with people that may have wronged them 20 years ago. And so as far as what do we do, vengeance is not ours. Vengeance is the Lord's. All you can do is protect yourself and your family. Now, the thing that I've been kicking around in my head is like, well, how far out? Right. So, for example, when the COVID stuff was going on, and they were, you know, taking kids away from parents for not getting the COVID shot, or in some states, if you don't affirm your child's transition, they are now a ward of the state. At what point do we accept, or like, how far out do they have to be before we start to do something? Right.
Yeah.
So if we think of like a tangible situation, right? Do I wait for someone who's at the end of my 100-yard driveway before they get on my property before I do something? Or do I wait till they're on my doorstep? Right. Or do I stop them before they even leave City Hall? Right? So at what point? And I think once there's the imminence of the situation, then you're responsible to act.
I agree. In all those questions, I mean, those are prudential matters that you're the only one that can decide those. You know, not even you know, a priest can maybe give you the moral guidelines, but at that point you're beyond that, and you're making prudential decisions as the situation dictates, and you just gotta go with the best you can, I guess.
Yeah. I've talked about this with other guys, you know, because like doing what I did in the Marines, and you know, basically, you know, where I'm at now, I'm on like 5 lists. I have to be, right, you know, and I'm probably on another one now because I'm on a show, but
100%.
I have, especially this show.
Yeah.
How many feds are watching right now? I'm not fed posting. So the one thing that I've kind of inculcated my family in is, one day dad might not be any longer because he had to do something to protect the family. Right. One day dad might not be here anymore because they took him away for having the wrong opinion. Okay. And getting my family understanding of that, like, look, if that happens, know that it's God's will, and I will try to suffer the best I can and offer up that suffering, but I will protect y'all with my life or going to prison no matter what. Right. And then it's a situation there of like, hopefully my community kicks in and helps with my family. But, you know, just getting your family understanding of what you're willing to do, because nothing scares me more than my son seeing me in a situation where I should have done something and I didn't. Right. Or seeing dad refuse to put his life on the line for something. now my son has a horrible opinion of me for the rest of his life, and I'm not willing to do that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, not late decisions that we have to think about and prepare for and prepare our families for.
Yep.
One of the other questions I saw, and you had mentioned it earlier, is the possibility of Charlie wearing some sort of ballistic protection, whether that
Yeah.
that cause a potential ricochet. I know you had texted me the
Mhm.
day of, because a very frame by frame close up showed what maybe looked like it could be a ricochet. Now, at that point, I hadn't seen like close up photos of
Mhm.
what he had been wearing before.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, now we had talked on literally the previous show about different sort of ballistic protection and how like a steel plate is
Mhm.
really thin compared to, say, ceramic, but causes ricochet. Well, not ricochets, falling. But judging from the pictures I've seen of him on that day, to me it looked like he probably wasn't wearing anything. But what do you think?
So as I started looking, because the first thing I saw when the first angles came out, the first thing I saw is that when they slowed it down, it looked like it hit like just below his clavicle, or at least somewhere, and then it came up his neck. And I was like, man, I hope he wasn't wearing steel plates, because that's probably it ricocheted and went up into his neck. But to your point, when we saw pictures later of what he was actually wearing, like you could see the curvature of his back when he was, slumped over, talking to somebody, or you could see his nipples through his shirt, right? Like you're not going to see that with steel plates. So no, I just think now, by what information I've been able to see, I think the shooter was aiming for his chest, and was not a very good shot, and got lucky and hit him in the jugular.
I mean, even and I discussed this with Anthony, whenever that was. I mean, that sort of rifle, it wasn't, it was a pretty cheap 30-06. It really is what it looked like, with probably a pretty cheap scope. I mean, even a perfect shot, you at 200 yards, you have at least 4 inches where that bullet could land. So if you're aiming chest, I mean, yeah, you have. I mean, it very easily could.
And if the rumors are true, and the information is true that the rifle was provided by someone else, he probably never zeroed that rifle himself.
True. Yeah.
So it's probably zeroed to somebody else, who may have longer arms or a different sight radius to the scope, right? Maybe he may have saw some shadowing of the scope or whatever, and that may have affected it. But I mean, 200 yards on a 30-06, I could teach my 5-year-old to do that in about 2 hours. Like it does not take. That's not a hard shot at all.
Honestly, anything less than that with the 30-06, you should look for a different caliber, probably.
Yeah,
but
and I know the ballistics gel guy sent out. That's been making the rounds.
The one Ian Carroll posted.
Yeah, God, that guy's so dumb.
He really is not.
He's
smart.
so dumb. He's got to be paid opposition, or he just really likes his musk bucks. But that's not gel. Is a theatrical, dramatic way of showing bullets, right? It's not ballistically sound, right?
No. So and it started off as blocks of just gelatin, that would be used. I mean, I think it started with the FBI, just to give a constant comparison, right? A control for testing different rounds, and they determined that for the FBI, anyways, their standards between 12 and 18 inches of penetration, and 80% ballistic gelatin is what they wanted. But it is somewhat a substitute for kind of a human body, but a human body isn't consistent like ballistic gelatin is. And the way bullets work, especially things like hollow points or soft tips, and I don't know what sort of ammo this was used, but say if it was it's like a soft tip hunting round, when that round encounters fluid, whether it's It's water, blood, just tissue in general is like 70 to 80% fluid. When it encounters fluid, that hydrostatic pressure
Mhm.
causes that round to mushroom, to deform, to
Mhm.
basically dump all its energy.
Yeah.
There's a lot less of that, say, in a neck than
Mhm.
there is in a skull with a brain that's basically all fluid. So when you shoot in those ballistic skeletons, ballistic heads, right? They're basically filled with balloons with liquid in them. So when a bullet hits that hydrostatic pressure dumps all the energy, and you get that explosion because fluid doesn't compress, water doesn't compress.
Right.
So when it gets that energy dumped into it, it just explodes out.
Yeah.
Whereas a shot through a neck is going to, I mean, I'm no expert, but I would imagine it probably just largely slips through pretty
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah, and that's what we saw, and it depends on the ammunition, as Derek was saying. Yes, it would go straight through, and I can't tell you how many times I've shot a deer with 30-06 at closer than 100 yards, and it just zips right through them, right? And it's just all you can see is a small hole when you finally found the deer. Hopefully, if you shot him through the heart, right? And when it comes to something that's coming out at that high velocity, especially going through the neck, because if you look at like your neck, you've got your carotid on one side, you got your jugular on the other side, they're basically shifting blood one way or the other. If you're just basically going through like the pinch of the neck there, it's going to go right, especially if it's ball ammo, it's just going to zip right through. And I think the shooter got lucky and hit the jugular. And that blood was just pumping. You saw it when it hit. When the round went through, it pulled blood with it, but it just kept pumping out. So it could have, I'm trying to think of how he was. It was on his left side. So, could be.
Do you think what we saw was the entrance, and I really
I think he got shot from the right side and it came out and went out the left side.
Yeah.
If
and
you
it would
look
make
at
sense.
the way the shirt moved, right, and it kind of waved towards his left side. I'm never like put myself in his position, but yeah, as far as, well, I won't get into any of the because people have thrown out some wild conspiracies. Like some people trying to blame it on Nick Fuentes. That's insane. like first of all, those people are not organized enough to do that. But second of all, I don't think any of those guys ever shot a gun. So there's a long history of John Brown Gun Club, Redneck Revolt, Democrat Socialists of America. Like these are all organizations that have gone to the Middle East and trained with the Kurds, have gone to Ukraine and fought against the Russians, and then come back to train other people how to fight, as well as the left has their own Green Berets and Deltas that are on their side. There's
you've seen that with how many people in the military are getting fired over celebrating this.
Yeah. So,
and 30 years ago, it would, instead of going over to Ukraine and the training with the Kurds and stuff like that, it would have been getting training from Moscow. I mean, and these are descendants of those same groups and organizations, that go back to the Sudanese Liberation Army and the Weather Underground and things of that nature. They just, now wear furry suits instead of
and
hippie headbands.
What we haven't started to see a lot of is the improvised explosives. The Weather Underground was well known for that.
Yeah,
in fact, they bombed the Senate building.
Sudanese Liberation Army accidentally blew themselves up, right, because of all their explosives they had.
So when that starts happening, which we almost saw it the other day, who knows if that was actual explosive or not, but when that starts happening, because I saw a guy from the EOD out of West Virginia. He was in like a reserve unit with the EOD, and he was, commenting on Charlie Kirk's assassination and was very happy that it happened. And this is a guy that works at EOD. He knows how to build IEDs, right? And if that guy starts training other people how to do it, right, how things are going to get bad, real bad. You start seeing car bombs and V-bids going off, because you can't block a V-bid. even the president has a hard time.
VBID, vehicle-borne
Vehicle-borne IED. Yeah. We saw it a lot in Afghanistan. A lot. That's why we had serpentine entrances to a lot of our bases to try and stop that. But that you can't. There's very little you can do. You have to try and identify it, and that's about all you can do. But
yeah, it's one of those things. People on the left, especially, don't understand that. Even if you were somehow to make all 530 million firearms in this country disappear, that wouldn't make things like this better. It would probably make them worse because they would use other more violent means.
Well, and even if you took all the guns away, like the criminals will still have guns.
yeah, exactly.
Because when's the last time a criminal followed the law? Like it's not what they're known for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and drones, we haven't. I mean, you're talking, vehicle-borne things, but they're getting training in Ukraine and things like that.
I saw a video of a FPV drone in Ukraine. This was 6 months ago, and this thing travels at 200 miles an hour. You can't stop that. That thing's going to destroy whatever it wants to destroy. It's too fast.
And now with the fiber optic ones, you can't jam them or things, or use necessarily like electronic means to bring them down because they're being controlled through a fiber optic wire.
Yeah. And really those are only good in open spaces. Like if you live in a more wooded area, you're a little safe from the fiber optic ones.
Yeah.
Because like in Ukraine, you see fields and nothing but like fiber optic lines shimmering in the sunlight, right? Everywhere. Like, man.
Looks like a power line over a fishing pier, basically. What other questions did I see?
I want to do this one real quick.
Okay.
I think Pope Francis was a stumbling block for a lot of people. I think Pope Francis was a stumbling block for a lot of Catholics.
Well, Charlie said that in an interview with Tucker, even publicly.
Yeah, and I get that, and now that Francis is no longer here and we have a new Pope, who's really just not doing anything, is kind of staying low, which I kind of like, but I don't think this is the time for that kind of Pope. But I think a lot of people have seen the evil that's been coming up the past few weeks, and we had a lot of people who are devout atheists claiming they went to church on Sunday for the first time.
Yeah,
right. The Holy Spirit will not be held back, and so if they're open to it and their hearts are open to it, things are going to change. And that, to be honest with you, as you and Anthony have talked about, only God can do something about this. Because we are in such a paradigm where people don't even agree on what a woman is, that this is not a stable condition for dialogue. Like we're two people with entirely different views of reality, and that cannot be reconciled at all.
It was I noticed, especially in like the firearm community on Twitter, the number of guys that went back for the first time in 10, 15, 20, 30 years. That was really cool. Really cool to see. There was one, I don't know if I know I didn't start. Oh, right here. There, you started.
Yeah, I saw it. We talked about this in the first show, I think. Maybe
no, the Annunciation show. I think
Annunciation show.
Yeah, or second one.
You have to feel out your pastor and try and figure him out, and if that's something he's even amenable to. This may be a thing where you ask for forgiveness instead of permission, right? You kind of set something up on the side, and he just never knows about it, right? Because
many of them probably don't even want to know.
Yeah,
about it.
Because even if you did, even if he was very accepting of that idea, he's not going to be able to give you top cover. So one, feel your priest out, and then just kind of see, hey, this is something we're talking about. What are your thoughts on it? And then if he's like, oh, I'm not really comfortable with that, I'm like, all right, got it. And then y'all do it anyway without him knowing, and he just doesn't have to be involved. because he may be in a very precarious situation with his bishop. Right. Okay. Now, the other thing is you absolutely need some type of carry insurance.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Even if you get permission by the priest, you need some type of carry insurance. The guy over at Christian Warrior Training has a review on all the insurances on his website. If y'all want to go over there and look at those reviews, there's really only one, I believe, that he suggests for people who are doing an actual church security, just because the way they've set up the policy, it'll actually protect you. But you have to do your own research on that. But you need some type of protection in case that event does happen, because it's very likely that you'll live through it, but you'll probably be financially devastated afterwards if that person lives and they sue you for everything you've got.
And that's if you win.
Yeah.
That's if you win,
Yeah.
let alone if you lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is, if your church has a school, there are some extra legal concerns there, just due to the federal and state laws and things of that nature. So be aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, if
Yes.
I would say, don't, like, if you just got your carry permit and you just got a gun, and I mean, and you don't have it set up yet, don't prevent it from you, or don't let it prevent you from carrying tomorrow necessarily. But if you're going to put the money into the gun, into the ammo, into the training, and you should all do that, put the money in the carry insurance too.
Yeah. And it's pretty affordable. I think USCCA is like one of the higher ones, and I think it's like $30 a month or something for it. Or maybe a little bit, maybe 35. But there's some very affordable ones out there. You've got like attorneys on retainer. They're not an actual insurance. I believe they're the way they're set up. They're just, you're paying them a retainer fee basically every month. Because the issue you run into with carry insurance is insurance cannot cover an illegal act.
Yeah.
So if you end up having to use your firearm and you get arrested and charged and you lose, like, they cannot cover you for that because it was an illegal act. So they may have to come after you for any monies they spent on your trial. And that's kind of something that they can't really do anything about because it's insurance. Attorneys on retainer is, you're basically just paying a retainer, and they're spread loading the cost of these trials.
Everyone.
Right. It's kind of like these Christian health share programs, right? It works in much the same way.
Who was that you said that has a review of all of them?
I can't remember his name. He's at, the website is christianwarriortraining.com. He's got a really good YouTube channel too.
David, I would be curious as to why you say don't get USCCA, because that's the one I have.
So USCCA has had some issues lately where
they
have not covered people that should have been covered.
Really?
And they've kind of had a lot of egg on their face. Now, because of the backlash they've had about it, they have changed some things about their policies. They're a little bit better. In fact, the guy from Christian Warrior Training, he talks about a lot of that. And he went and had a sit down talk with them because he reviews them every year because they change every year.
Yeah.
And so he went and had a sit down talk with them about it, and they have changed a lot to where it's, that won't happen again. But USCCA is a very big organization now.
Because I first went with them, like, it's got to be 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Something like that. And there wasn't too many options at that point.
Yeah. There's a lot more options now. Law Shield out of Texas, I think, is another good one. But just do your due diligence and research, and you can just go through YouTube and see reviews on these things if you want to, instead of having to read it.
It's Christian Warrior Training, Eastern Orthodox.
I think he's Protestant. I know he's Protestant. Well, I mean, he could be either,
but probably Protestant.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, most Orthodox, or especially online Orthodox, are just Protestant in nature anyway. Let's see, anything else?
Or they're actually like Eastern European, and they don't worry about things like carry insurance for their AKs. They're in Makarovs.
Yeah, they got their Adidas jumpsuits.
Was there anything else?
I don't think I saw anything. So This one I want to show real quick. I don't know, but she didn't talk on her talk like someone who goes to mass.
Yeah, it did sound very Protestant.
It was very Protestant.
In everything I'm about to say is complete 100% speculation. Don't listen to me. It wouldn't surprise me if her going back to mass, and I mean there are pictures of them at mass.
Mhm.
If them going to mass was less about her returning to the faith and more him actually inquiring and leading the whole family back there.
Mhm. Yeah,
because
I can see that.
judging from what I know of him and have learned at least the last few days anyways about him, like he seems like one who wouldn't necessarily have his wife lead him to a church he didn't want to go to, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so that I guess that if I had to guess, that's what I would say, but I'm probably wrong.
Yeah. And I would hope, and he comes off like a man who is more the head of his family, more
Yeah.
the leader
Yeah.
than his wife is. And she seems somewhat submissive to him. Now with her wanting to run TPUSA, I could be completely wrong. She might be a girl boss, who knows? But I could see that happening because I think most, especially now, a lot of men are starting to reevaluate the faith that they grew up in, whether they're
Yep.
Protestant or Catholic, right? And because even if you're Catholic, like you're like, is this it? Like, my pastor's telling me that we got to help more immigrants come in. Like, is that really what I'm supposed to be doing? And then they find out. Then I think COVID dispelled a lot of that when we saw people could go online and see what a Latin mass looked like and hear the homily and like, wow, like this is not what I'm used to hearing at all. Well, let's see what else.
Did you hear how they met and ended up starting to go out?
Mm-mm.
So that story is what kind of leads me to my conclusion there. So I guess she was actually interviewing for a job with TPUSA. She was running some sort of, well, she still runs some sort of clothing brand, but she was interviewing for a job, and so they had a lunch interview, and at the end of the lunch and the interview, Charlie more or less said something along the lines of like, I can't offer you the job, but that's because I'm going to date you instead. And he went along with it, I guess. So just from that story and other things, it wouldn't surprise me if maybe he was actually the catalyst towards them looking into Catholicism, but I might be wrong.
No. Yeah.
Imagine a female avoiding Babylon. No, thank you.
We get see Margot and somebody else on. Who would it be? Who would be the female Anthony? You know who it would be? You know exactly who it would be? Have you seen that comedian Lenoina, whatever his name is? You haven't seen her? I'm gonna start seeing her stuff. She is a female Anthony, 100%. She's even got like the Italian New York accent real bad. Yeah. I sent it to Anthony. I was like, did you get AI to switch you and like make you into a woman?
Is this Taffy's work?
He is a miracle worker.
You
really never know.
Is.
It could very well be him.
The other day for yesterday's show, no, not yesterday, today's Monday. Whatever. The last show where we started off talking about Lofton. He goes, I didn't have time to make one for today, but I just made this one randomly a few days ago, and it's the one with the Lofton and the furry gimp suit. And it's like, you just make these for fun and have them ready to go for random occasions.
You never know when you got to pull out a random meme, you know?
He's a lawyer.
They might not give him a lot of work. Or he may be really, really good. Man, when I was watching that Wagner takedown of Lofton, and it was surgical. It was precise. Because, like I've always had an issue with Lofton because he's never had a friend he isn't willing to stab in the back. And it's just amazing to me that people still put stock in this guy. You know, and to be honest with you, they don't really, because the amount of subscribers he has, the amount of views he has, it's
Yeah.
abysmal.
It is the
So I think a
ratio there.
lot of his subscriptions are probably bots, I would think. But
The problem is, and especially with some of the YouTube analysis tools that I use and that are out there, like it's hard to get a real feel for his metrics because he removes so many videos. When you like unlist a video or delete it off of YouTube, in your metrics, it removes all those views. So when I go to look at like how he's done last month compared to us and compared to other similar channels, you can't ever tell because he's in the negative hundreds of thousands of views because of videos he's removed, because he's now at odds with the position he held, you know, 1,
Yeah.
2, 3 years ago. So it's, yeah. But my favorite part of Christian's video, of Wagner's video, was, I mean, obviously, yeah, like you said, and I texted him, I'm like, you basically publicly executed him on air.
Yeah.
But my favorite part was actually not so much the stuff about Lofton, was just more the stuff about the passions and in just what real hope is, and how, you know, he put it a very interesting way. You know, he was saying that you have to consume the black pills. You
Yeah.
have to keep consuming the black pills so that you lose hope in everything but God, that you
Yeah.
lose hope in man and in men in general, and all you have left then is hope in God. And I thought that was a very
Absolutely.
insightful thing for him to talk about.
It's hard for people to put themselves in that situation, though, where they're constantly seeing how evil things are or how bad things are, and, you know, because we're not to put our trust in princes, and it's so much easier to just attach yourself to a cult of personality, because then not only that, but then you build a community out of it. Like, you have an instant community you can be a part of.
Yeah.
We're all, you know, MAGA or whatever, you know, it is. But when you start realizing that, like, no one is good, and God is the only rock you can attach yourself to. But then it gives you an extra perspective of empathy as well, you know, because, you know, the amount of horrible things I've seen in my life and done as well. I have a lot more empathy because of that, because I've seen those horrible things for other people who may be going through very similar things, right? Because, like, as most guys have had, when I was younger, I had a very abusive girlfriend, like, a verbally, emotionally, and now it's like, it's so much worse for guys now who are dating, and they're having to deal with these very narcissistic girl boss women that, like, man, like, you just got to have empathy for these guys because they have to deal with this, because it's so much worse now than it was 20, 25 years ago when I was still dating.
Yeah, that's a good point. Michael's chat was thanking him for bringing the truth today. Yeah, I don't understand how. I don't understand people who watch him, but
I mean, it's no one remains a Lofton fan, right? Because eventually, almost he's reliant on a constantly new set of people constantly coming in and not seeing his BS.
Yeah.
And the thing that's helping that is his high subscriber count, right? And then some people hate watch him, right? And they're subscribed just to watch the stupid stuff he says. But he requires, just like Protestant churches, he has to have a constant stream of new people coming, new people to the faith, because he sounds like he knows what he's talking about, but he distorts things so much because of his narcissism, because it really all has to be about him, is what it all comes down to. And he's very, very big on credentials. Well, you don't have the degrees I've got, so you're not educated enough to know the fine nuances, you know, that kind of talk. And it's honestly, he's somebody, we were talking about this earlier, you know, someone was talking about how they're appreciative. It was in the Telegram chat. They're talking about how they're appreciative of the Disney films lately because they have helped women to start see the red flags, right? Like in Frozen, they're talking, you know, the love bombing of whatever the guy is, you know, or the narcissism entangled, right? and I was thinking back, I'm like, man, maybe that's, while watching those with my kids, I've been able to see those things as well a little bit better, because that's what I see in him. The narcissism is just, it drips from every bit of him. And it's sad because it's pushed everybody away from him.
It has. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone he's collaborated with in the past is, like you said, he's never met someone he wasn't willing to stab in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And he really did steal Enoch's flow, guys. They really. What? No, Enoch told us not to tell, but that was.
I'm just glad that the Vatican finally invited him over so they can get his input, because I don't know what we would do without the magisterium of Lofton.
I love how he made it seem like he got all this special treatment when he got nothing more than the other 5,000
than everyone else did.
Yeah,
guys, they're really listening to me. Like, bro, you know what he sounds like? Back in the day in American Idol, and somebody would get up and they could not sing very well, but they were convinced that they could.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he is. He's an American Idol contestant that's screaming like a cat, scratching a chalkboard. He just doesn't realize that no one who has he had around that has stayed around that hasn't been a bad character.
No one.
And like he's obviously not a good judge of people. But
yeah,
all right.
Yeah, we could talk more about that. Not so much him, but let's see who recently who has promoted him. Let's see, Voice of Reason. There's a couple others that have made it on big shows recently, but there's that Filipino kid.
I think a question we need to ask is, when are we going to do something about Matt Fred and Pints of the Aquinas? He keeps promoting some of the worst people.
I know that's who I was talking about. Because who was it that they just had on that Anthony was complaining about on Twitter, how they'll have everyone on except him? Who was that? Gosh, who was that?
Well, the reason they won't have Anthony on?
Because he complains about it?
Well, that's probably a little bit because he's unpredictable. They
That's
don't
true.
know what he's going to say, right? And it's going to be real suspicious when they put Pints of the Kindness and it's only 45 minutes long because they had to cut a bunch of stuff.
Because everyone knows Anthony's not talking. Well, one,
Yeah.
that any pint show is only 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And that one with Anthony will. Ubi Petrus.
Yeah, well, he's a eugenicist apparently.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly
anybody with less than 93 IQ, he's willing to just offload.
Ironically, his account disappeared shortly after that. He must have realized
Crazy.
what his own IQ was.
His track record lately has not been good. Not been good at all. It's shocking to me. And I say that in the most bland way to say shocking. The larger a channel gets and the more vanilla they become. Right? Like Matt Fred used to have some really good guests. But as he got bigger and he didn't want to rock the boat, his guests got more and more vanilla. Right? Which is why he won't have anybody on to give the counter argument for the SSPX. Right?
Yeah.
And he keeps having on all these bigger platform people so they can get him more views and more subscriptions. So I don't know if that's his management company set. Somebody told me that he has a management company who does all his guests. And if you're at that point,
a management company that does that for a lot of.
Yeah. If you're at that point where you no longer have creative control of what you're doing, why are you doing it? Like it's just, now it's a 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not what that's what I assume that's what most people didn't get into content creation to just have a 9 to 5.
Yeah, that's what you're trying to avoid usually.
Yeah.
Or I just want to avoid Anthony.
I'm surprised he hasn't popped in yet. He's probably asleep now. We're up way too late for him. I get up at 4 a.m. so I can sit in the truck and watch YouTube all day.
So I put out a clip at noon, and I had it ready to go at 6 a.m. And I'd like to get those ready early. So after it's scheduled on our page, you can go in and see if he wants to tweak the title, thumbnail, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything. Clip went live. It was like 45 minutes after the clip went live. He's like, "Oh, we got to change the title." I'm like, "Why didn't you tell me 7 hours ago?" He goes, "Because I was actually having to work today."
That's the worst. Worst. When I was in the Marines, you always wanted to avoid working parties because they like. I think one time they came by and snatched a bunch of us up just to go field day, like the shooting ranges. Basically, look for extra brass that hadn't been out because when you go shooting, you have to get all that brass up.
Yeah.
And I think we had like an inspection or something over the base. And man, like, and the sad part is I was a NCO at the time, so I wasn't doing any work. I was just telling everybody else to do it. But the sad part is my entire unit was nothing but NCOs, so none of us were doing any work because we're NCOs. We don't work. We tell the other guys to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like we had an entire section of the range that still had a bunch of brass on it because we were not picking it up. We just weren't doing it. We got in so much trouble for that.
That's funny. Well, think it's time.
I think it's time. It is time.
Hopefully
You know
next
what's
week
sad?
we don't have some sort of terrible tragedy we need to talk about.
Oh man, I hope not. Let next week be a super boring show.
I hope so.
Let's let next week be water purification. Let's make this super boring.
We are going to set this on the stove and we are going to watch it boil together, everyone. Because it's the week after that we're doing some medical, right?
Yeah, we're doing medical on the 29th. Next week, I don't know what you want to do.
I don't know, man.
I'll do
What is it? What does everyone want us to do? You want to have
Yeah.
any opinions? You want to talk about EDC stuff?
We can go over to EDC and what I carry every day, what you carry every day, what I should be carrying every day. You know, we can do that.
Okay. And if something else comes up or someone gets a better
I'm
idea,
sure
we'll do
something
that.
will. I'm sure something will. I'm surprised nothing happened on September 11th. No, there was something that happened on September 11th. Was there like a school shooting or something?
No, that happened on the 10th.
Oh, that was on the 10th as well.
Yeah. And that kid had connections to the same groups that the Annunciation shooter had.
The acceleration nihilist, man. Like, so that's another thing. Y'all need to go watch Forward Observer. Mike Shelby's on X, Gray Zone Intel or Gray Zone Warlord, Gray Zone the Warlord. He's been reporting on all these far left Antifa groups for a long, long time. He's put out a report about it, and you've got one in your state, you've got one in your city, 100% guaranteed. They're everywhere, and they've been,
especially if you have a college or university.
Yes, absolutely. So I would check him out and look at that stuff so you can be aware of what's going on around you, because if you're all in the fog of war right now and you can do something about it, you can find out what's around you. And he's got a lot of back reporting about a lot of stuff. So maybe I'll talk to him, see if I can get him on soon too. I'm sure he would like to come on.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I'd be very interested in that.
Yeah, he's a good talk.
Yeah. Everyone
all
says
right, guys.
More gun content, more pew pew.
More pew pew.
But see, if we do that, we'll lose people like Mrs. C, who wants us to talk about pantry stuff.
Hey, we can talk about my wife's wheat grinder and making flour. In fact, she made like 5 loaves of bread a day. Did you know you cannot get organic wheat berries or flour in the United States at all? That comes from the United States.
Really? Because I know there is a Catholic family who sells it, but I guess I don't know if it's organic.
So there's a few farms that are starting to build it up. Four Brothers is one. We get wheat berries from them. Wheat berries last a whole lot longer, and the bread just tastes a lot better. But most of it comes from France. Like Costco sells organic flour, but it's not from the United States. It's from France.
Let me
It comes from France.
let me look this up because
I am almost 100% sure that's everyone's gluten issues is because of the chemicals and such that are in the flour.
So grains from the plains. Have you heard of them?
No, they knew.
So they're a Catholic family.
You're starting to see more pop up. I went to the Homestead Festival in Tennessee this summer with my wife, and there was a new one there I had never heard of yet. And so yeah, I'm glad I'm seeing more and more of them pop up.
So this is
where are they out of?
let me look here.
It's so small.
We had talked about doing potential sponsorships. So
They've talked to y'all about doing that?
potentially, yeah. Lincoln County, Colorado.
Did you say Colorado?
Colorado.
Okay, good.
Really? No, this is not how this works. I lecture like Anthony about how to talk.
I speak the proper Queen's English. I don't know if you knew that.
So I guess they have organic wheat berries.
Good. I wonder if they grow it themselves. The issue is it's so hard to grow wheat without pesticides. It's real hard. So
look at this here. I'll see if I can make this bigger. Give me a second. We are not legally allowed to use the O word, organic, since we are not certified, but we follow organic standards.
Yep.
We do not grow GMOs or use any chemical fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides, or anything else artificial.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you're right. You won't see organic certified.
Yeah. As Miss Steve said, yeah, Azure does sell some, but it's only recently has it come from the United States. Prior to that, it was coming in from France. So you can't just go to Publix and get organic. I mean, you can get organic flour from Publix. I think King Arthur sells it, but it's not actually organic because it's the same thing with like grass-fed beef. As long as it's fed grass 51% of the time, it's grass-fed beef, right? And so they get all around a lot of these things a lot of times. So that's been the trouble for us. Like we eat all organic now. At home we eat all organic.
Right.
We still go out to eat occasionally. So we're about like an 80-20 life. But I am almost, since I've been I don't eat bread out usually. I try not to. But I can tell when I do. Like I can't eat pizza anymore. I'm not the same. My body doesn't like it, like the Toxic Avenger, right? And it's horrible. And so I try not to eat pizza out anymore because I don't like the way it makes me feel anymore. And that sucks because I love pizza.
Did you eat pizza when we ordered it at like 11 o'clock when we were drinking in North Carolina?
Mm-hmm,
How'd that go for you?
Not good. Not good at all. It was not. I'm glad I had my own room. I'll say that.
I mean, it could have been worse. Could have drank half a gallon of chocolate milk that night.
I've seen some crazy cocktails in my life, but
I've drank some stupid stuff.
I've never seen a man mix chocolate milk with a liquor.
Was it
bourbon or something? It was something brown. I know that. Maybe
I think it was cheap bourbon.
Was it cheap bourbon?
I think so.
And that boy was having a good old time for about 30 minutes.
Till he wasn't.
And then he was no longer having a good time. Now the rest of us were not having a good time. But yeah, what y'all do, get them to I mean, you can have them send it to me and I'll test it. I'll check it out. Have my wife grind it real quick and we'll make some bread.
Okay.
And we'll test it out.
I think the last we had talked, they were maybe going to send my wife bakes. We don't have a grinder or mill or anything like that. Yeah. So they were we were talking about maybe getting they're going to send some just some
ground
wheat samples for
yeah. Well, the reason that you don't really want to buy ground flour, I mean, you can't, like, whatever, but when you grind the wheat berries yourself, it keeps a lot of the minerals are basically gone after 24 hours. All the vitamins, minerals.
It's like coffee grounds. That's why freshly ground coffee
Yeah.
is so much better
So much
than
yeah. But I mean, eating organic flour is way better than eating that garbage at the grocery store. That's why we have all these people with gluten issues. It's because of the flour. The same thing with corn. You actually can't get organic corn in the United States. It's all GMO. All of it.
Yeah, I believe that.
Well,
yeah, because like the corn that was here,
yeah,
when white people got here, does not look like what we eat now.
No. Same thing with bananas. Have you seen like what bananas originally look like?
Yes. You know why banana candy tastes different, right?
Why banana candy tastes different
than like the bananas we eat.
Wow.
Because when they developed that artificial flavor, they were matching it to a variety of banana that's extinct now. So yeah, it doesn't taste like bananas we eat now because it was a completely different banana that is completely gone now.
Isn't it strawberry flavoring is not actually strawberry? It's like beaver gland.
I don't know if it's beaver. It's something. You're right though.
I'm gonna look it up.
You're right though.
I'm a beaver gland enjoyer.
That's another thing. Wild strawberries are the size of small raspberries. That's another fruit we've Frankensteined into something crazy.
Look, I'm a big fan of like strawberry milk, and thankfully I'm not lactose intolerant. Yeah, it comes from a beaver butt gland. Ethyl methyl phenylglycidate, also known as strawberry aldehyde.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, so it comes from a beaver butt gland.
You drink that with your bourbon?
Look, I'll try everything once. I used to love Irish car bombs. I think they call them Boilermakers now, but
those are my favorite. That's my favorite shot. 100%.
Is it?
Yeah,
that's a big shot. I don't know if I call that a shot.
Well, I don't know what else to call it though.
That's a mixed drink. That's what that is. See, we got another strawberry milk enjoyer over here. Yeah. I took my son fishing last summer, and I stopped, and like every time I do like a daddy and son day, I always get like the most horrible food for us to eat.
Of course, you have to.
We went camping a couple of weekends ago, and I bought them zebra cakes because we never eat those at home.
Yeah.
So I gotta give them a reason to want to enjoy this stuff, right? Because fishing is super boring for kids. But I got these powdered donuts and strawberry milk, and we're out there fishing, and he's eating his strawberry donuts. I ate the first one. And I'm like, this tastes weird, and I'm like, no, whatever. Like I've eaten worse. I've eaten, MREs off the ground in Afghanistan. They can't be that bad,
right?
And I look at the donuts, and they're all molded, and I'd already had like 2 by this point. I was like, well, at least, I'm not going to get sick because I'm eating penicillin.
You're like, son, remember how we talked about the one day daddy might not be here? Well, daddy just did something stupid. You need to drive me to the hospital.
I know you're 5. You're fine.
10 and 2. Hey, so keep your hands on 10 and 2.
Just don't push the right pedal too hard. You'll be fine. Just keep using your horn.
Yeah, exactly. Airweight revolvers.
Airweight revolvers?
They are a pain in the butt to shoot. That's all I'm going to say.
What's an airweight revolver?
It's Smith & Wesson. It has they call some of their revolvers airweights. No, they're just like aluminum frame. They're just super light. Like some of their J frames.
Oh, okay.
They're just super
airweight.
Yeah.
That shows you how little I shoot revolvers. I had a guy. When I teach, like I'm teaching a concealed carry course here to my parish here soon. I had a guy. He showed up with his grandpa's revolver, and I had to teach him a different way to shoot because he kept trying to hold the firearm like everybody else, like with a good grip on like a striker fired. Like you can't do that with a revolver because the cylinder it's going to burn your hand.
Yeah, yeah.
You just can't do that.
Yeah.
And he didn't listen to me, and he ended up having a burn going down like half his hand. But now he carries a Glock, so that was a good day. All right, I'm gonna call it quits.
I think we've milked this one enough. Beaver glands and all.
Beaver glands. Don't knock it till you try it at least once. All right, guys, we'll let y'all go. Are y'all got a show tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think so. I think what was the title gonna be? I don't remember. Anthony sent me a title. Spiritual but not religious people are ruining the country.
Nice.
Gonna make friends.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely you will. That'll be a fun one to watch.
It'll be interesting. Other than that, let's see what else is coming up. I don't know what we have Thursday. Next Monday we'll do something. I don't know what then next week, but I know not this weekend, but next weekend is Sebastian's baptism, where Anthony's coming into town. Hopefully we'll get to meet anyone who's within driving distance of the Minneapolis St. Paul. You're all invited. I know a few number of people are going to be coming. I don't know if we'll do an in-person show or not, but probably not. I think we just want to hang out. Anthony's never met my wife in person. He's only met one of my kids in person. I've never met his wife in person. So we're probably just going to hang out and not do shows that weekend, but it should be a fun time.
Yeah. That's awesome. I can't even fathom having to push out a baptism that long.
It's rough.
I bet you're super anxious.
Yeah. It's so our first one was longer because I had just come back to the church. My wife hadn't even converted quite yet. So our first one we just scheduled 6 weeks out. But ever since then it's been quicker than this. But it was important for us to do the trad baptism. So
yeah.
The title currently is not "Our Greatest Allies Are Responsible." Not yet, anyways.
It could be Israel. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
We don't want to get assassinated.
I'm too low on the totem pole to worry about that.
So far,
I'm not even worth the 30-06 round.
Oh man, and that's. I was gonna say that's how you know it was just it wasn't some highly trained operative. They didn't use 338 Lapua or Winchester Magnum or something. They used good.
If it were Israel, they would have used 5.56 because it's so ubiquitous.
Yeah,
it's everywhere,
and it will get that job done at 200 yards.
Even at 200 yards, that it's not going to affect the ballistics whatsoever.
No,
especially if they have like a 20-inch barrel. Absolutely not.
Okay.
All right. I'm not going to be drawn into any more conversations. Bellator.
This is my Midwest Minnesota goodbyes happening right here.
I'll do an Irish goodbye. You just won't see me on the camera anymore.
Just gone.
Just take off.
Okay. Well, we're leaving for real this time, guys. So
right.
Thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow with Ant or next Monday for the two of us. So have a good night, everyone.